Hey, Shalom, Shalom. I'm going to start off this video by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elder bishops, a great millstone that rule while they teach well while learning truth. 100% according to the Bible. I also want to say shalom to the elect, the 144,000 men, prophet, servants scattered abroad the four corners of the earth, and shalom to you, Akwaf, which are you sisters that are sincere, your children, shalom. And then today's video is going to be based off of this video that I have here. As you see from the caption of the video, it said at least 13 deleted in a Texas flood emergency. So this is basically just going to be a video touching on judgment, man. Because this is ultimately what we see Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai bringing a lot. And these judgments that we see happening are only going to intensify and get worse and worse as time progresses. And I'm actually start off the video with that precept. This is 2nd Esdras chapter 14, verse 16. It said, for yet greater evils, right, meaning bad times, than those which thou hast seen happen shall be done hereafter, right? And this was the Lord talking to the prophet Esdras during his time, showing him of the things that were going to be occurring in the latter days, which is the time that we're in now, right? So it says, verse 17, for look how much the world, right, shall be weakened through age, so much the more shall evils increase upon them that dwell therein, man. And we know all of these different types of things, whether it's a storm, a hurricane, or whatever the situation may be, is all directed and controlled by Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai, that he's ultimately the one that's bringing it forth. And I'm going to prove that. This is Isaiah 29 and verse 6 in the KJV. It said, thou shalt be visited of the Lord of hosts with thunder, right? And with earthquake and great noise, with storm and tempest and the flame of devouring fire. And that's what you see right here, man. This is a flash flood. So, you know, the Lord have ultimately controlled that and allowed it to come into fruition, man, because he's in control over all of these things in which it is that we see occurring, both good and evil, you know. And I'm going to go to a precept just to prove that, right? This is Amos chapter 3, and I'm going to start at verse 6, right? In the KJV, it says, shall a trumpet be blown in the city and the people not be afraid, man? And that trumpet represents the men of the Lord, starting off with the apostles and elders, a great millstone, and the brothers teaching the same doctrine, ultimately warning you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, the times and seasons that we're living in, and telling you that things are only going to get worse. That's what we're warning you people about, but nobody's taking heed, right? So it says, shall there be evil in the city, and the Lord have not done it, man? So everything in which it is that we ultimately see occur that happens, whether it be a shooting or whatever the case may be, the Lord is orchestrating it all, man. You know? So I'm actually getting into this video so we can see what it is they're talking about. And I'm going to get a few precepts, and Lord's willing to be edifying. But before I start this video, I want to say fair use on 1976 Copyright Act. I'm not getting paid for this video. This is only for educational purposes only.
In Central Texas tonight, a catastrophic flood emergency. At least 13 people are dead, according to authorities, including children. And at least 20 kids are missing from a summer camp after a sudden surge along the Guadalupe River, north of San Antonio.
It's going to be a mass casualty event.
Authorities saying 14 helicopters are in the air. One rescuer dangling from a chopper, appearing to help someone up in a tree as flooding rages below. Cars lifting off the ground, swept away by the powerful waters. These steps leading to a house that's no longer there.
This is our house right here.
Another pushed down the road.
The water started to rise very rapidly.
Along the river, a series of summer camps. The La Junta camp for boys posting that everyone is safe. But some girls at Camp Mystic, trapped.
Now there are 20-some that aren't accounted for. We're praying for all of those missing to be found alive.
You can feel the anxiety here as parents are waiting to hear word about their child. We're told that these children are being transported by helicopter, the only way out of the camp.
Right. And you hear what it is that the guy's saying in the video. But like I said before, you know, Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai, you know, is bringing forth these evils, man. And they're only going to continue to get worse and worse as time progresses, man, because we know we're getting ready to come into a time like never before. So situations like this are only going to be small on the scale compared to the judgments and evils that the Lord is going to bring in the very near future, man. It's going to get way worse than this, man. Right. And I'm going to go to another precept just proving the Lord being in control, man. This is Isaiah chapter 45. I'm going to get straight to the point. Verse 7. It says, I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things, man. So the Lord is ultimately the one that allowed that flood to happen, man, and allowed, you know, those judgments that took place with all of those different types of, you know, people getting caught up in this situation that occurred. You know, the Lord is the one that's breaking these things, man. And I'm going to go to another precept just to prove that as well. This is Zephaniah chapter 3. And I'm going to start at verse 5. It said, the just Lord is in the midst thereof. He will not do iniquity. Every morning doth he bring his judgment to light. And this is ultimately what we see occurring, man. This is all judgment from the Lord, right? It said he fell of not, but the unjust know of no shame, man. And that's a lot of our people out here, man. They see these situations occurring. They see times are getting badder in this country, America, but nobody still wants to repent and turn back to Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. They thinking that these things will never happen to them. They don't think that this stuff will affect them. They don't think it's going to get worse than this. But these people are going to see very soon, man, because this is only the beginning of the bad times that are to come, you know. As it tells you in 2 Timothy 3:1, that in the last days perilous times shall come, man. Right? And we're not even in the beginning stages of seeing the evils that the Lord is about to manifest, man. It's about to get way worse in the very near future, man. You know, that's why we tell you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians to repent and to turn back to the Lord, man. Because, you know, these judgments are going to keep being brought forth, man, from the Lord. Right. And I'm actually get to another precept just proving the Lord being both in control over life and death, man, that he's ultimately the one that's doing the killing, man, because a lot of people grew up, you know, ultimately thinking that when things happen, that it's the devil that's doing it or it's, you know, somebody else. But no, it's actually the Lord that is bringing forth the judgment, man. Right. This is Deuteronomy 32 and 39. It says, see now that I, even I am he, and there is no God with me. Right. I kill and I make alive. I wound and I heal. Neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand, man. So there's nobody that could have possibly gotten these people out of this situation that they found themselves in, man, because it was ultimately being designed and orchestrated by the Lord. He allowed it to happen, man. That's why it tells us in the book of Hebrews, chapter 10, verse 31, that it is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living power, man. And a lot of more people in the very near future is going to fall into the hands of the Lord due to their wickedness, man. Mainly of our people not repenting, not turning back, not doing the things in which it is that the Lord ultimately requires of them to do, man. You know, so they're going to find themselves in situations like this where they're going to be in situations where they cannot escape them, man. You know, so I'm actually get this precept right here, right? This is Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 12, KJV. It said, for man, right, or woman, also knoweth not his time, as the fishes that are taken in an evil net, right? Because when you go fishing, you know, and the fishes, when they're swimming in the water, they don't know that the fisher is going to throw a rod in there and ultimately yank them up. That's the same thing when the Lord brings forth judgment. A lot of people don't expect it to come. It just happens suddenly, man, right? That's why us brothers and sisters of the hopeful elect, we always want to be in the good graces of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, ultimately doing things in which it is that we know is pleasing unto the Lord to the best of our abilities, man, because the Lord is bringing forth evil, man, you know, and it's only going to get worse, right? It says, and as the birds that are caught in the snare, so are the sons of men snared in an evil time when it falleth suddenly upon them, man, just like this flood that just took place. You know, I'm pretty sure those people did not expect that to take place. You know, you got a lot of people in the mirth spirit trying to celebrate the so-called 4th of July today. These people didn't think that that was going to occur or to happen to them. But that's just how the Lord gets down, man. You know, he comes when you least expect it, man. This is why we try to the best of our abilities, you know, to be on the Lord's right side, man, because we don't want to fall in a wrath of the Lord, man, because, you know, all of this is his judgment that he's bringing forth, man, you know. So I'm actually getting back into the video.
As parents wait to hear they return safely.
The county judge pressed on why the camps weren't evacuated.
We knew there was going to be a bomb. Why weren't these camps evacuated?
I can't answer that. I don't know.
These camps were in harm's way. We knew this flood was coming.
We didn't know this flood was coming. Rest assured, no one knew this kind of flood was coming. The tight-knit Texas towns across Kerr County are popular recreation areas. Len Clendenin and Rory Higgins were camping, asleep in their cabin when the water started rushing in.
Everything happened so terribly fast that there was mobile homes, travel trailers, cabins, vehicles, people in the water. It was devastating.
They took this video showing a building from the campground washing away. Their beloved border collie Ripper is still missing. Flood threats were in place overnight. Because drenching rain flooded the riverhead, massive amounts of water got pushed downstream. At one point today, National Weather Service data showing the water rising nearly 30 feet in 1 hour.
See?
This region
nearly 30 feet in 1 hour, man. That's from the Lord, you know? And this is why we tell you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians, and I'm actually get that precept right here. This is Isaiah chapter 55. And I'm going to start at verse 6 in the KJV. And it says, "Seek ye the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua, while he may be found. Call ye upon him while he is near." And that's what you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians ought to be doing, man. You know, seeking after your power and turning back to him, sorrowful and remorseful for your wrong thoughts, sins, and doings, man. Because these type of events that we see occurring are only going to escalate and escalate and escalate and going to get worse and worse, as it tells you in Matthew 24:8. All these are the beginning of sorrows, man. So it's going to get way more evil than what people are seeing now. People looking at stuff like this and they think, oh, well, that's just normal, whatever. But hey, it's about to get real bad out here, man. To a lot of people that ultimately don't think situations like this can affect them, they're going to see in the very near future, man, because these evils that the Lord is bringing are only going to intensify and amplify and get more severe, you know, as time moves on, right? So this is verse 7. It said, "Let the wicked, right, forsake his way, right, and the unrighteous man his thoughts, and let him return unto the Lord, and he will have mercy upon him, and to our power, for he will abundantly pardon." Right. And that's what our people ought to be doing, man, trying to seek after the Lord and get back right with him, man. Because like I said, you know, these things are only going to get worse as time goes on, man. You know, you're going to see more situations occurring like this where people are just going to be, you know, finding themselves in bad situations, man, that they cannot get out of, man. Right. So I'm going to get this precept right here. This is Sirach chapter 5, verse 7. It said, "Make no tarrying to turn to the Lord, and put not off from day to day, for suddenly," right, just like when this flood happened, those people wasn't expecting that flood to wash them away, man. It just happened out of nowhere, and that's how the Lord brings forth his judgment. He comes like a thief, man, when you people least expect him, you know. And it says, "For suddenly shall the wrath of the Lord come forth, and in thy security thou shalt be destroyed and perish in the day of vengeance," man, right? And that's ultimately what the Lord has done. He has brought forth his vengeance, you know, upon these people that got caught in this situation. Because as I read earlier, you know, the Lord is one that's controlling both life and death. He allows the issues of death to be brought out. And I'm actually go to a precept just touching on that, right? This is Psalms chapter 68. And I'm going to start at verse 20 in the KJV. And it said, "He that is our power is the power of salvation. And unto Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua, the Lord, belong the issues from death," man. So like I said before, the Lord is ultimately the one that's allowing people to be deleted, man. That's why you don't want to fall into the hands of the Lord. That's why you want to seek him now while he may be found. Because like I said, these evils are only going to continue to magnify and get more severe, man, as time moves on, man, you know. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I had to say with today's video. Lord's willing to be edifying. Just on quick through the spirit. Till the next time, I'm going to say shalom to the elect.